Hey, good evening, everybody. How are we all doing? Hope you're all good. Actually, I'm a little bit early, but I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. Yeah, just hi there, Chris, Mo, Rich, Reese, Stuart, Adam. How you all doing? Let us know if you can hear me okay. Let me know if the volume's all right, video's all good, all the things that I have to ask about. Perfect, man. Do you know what? It should just be a standing thing now. I shouldn't have to ask the question. Just let me know, but perfect. Thank you. Okay, tonight. So, what are we going to talk about this evening? Well, we're going to cover a little bit of news like we always do. I actually don't have any major kind of topic to then go and talk about. And whilst I do have a research token, Immutable X, I've actually pushed that to next week because what I've noticed last couple of weeks, I've gone through everything and then I get about 5 minutes left and I don't really get to go through any tokens, any sort of price or anything like that. So I thought, today, we're going to spend majority of the time actually just going through Bitcoin and other altcoins and just breaking it down in a lot more detail than we used to do probably a few months ago before we started rolling other things in. So, yeah, we'll go through those. With that being said, if you have any coins or tokens or projects that you're interested in, drop them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to just kind of run through what's on my list and ones that I know that RT are particularly interested in. But yeah, it'd be worthwhile if you can send through those. We had a couple of sort of questions, if you will, that were asked through Discord rather than on the sheets, which we'll go over as well. One was kind of about just mentality and profit taking. The other one was a Casper related question. It's like every week I get one of those. So yeah, so we'll go through all of that. Who knows? Might actually get a shorter call this evening than we normally do. I always say that, and we always overrun. But anyway, let's just jump straight in and see where we're at. I'll just make sure that actually went through. Okay, so sorry there. Standard charts that we kind of see as always, and actually we did have a bit of a move down yesterday from BTC, which we're going to go into in a lot more detail later on, but it's not moved that far compared to where the range that we were at, and we'll have a look at sort of how far this has moved down to previous moves up and whether or not we really need to get super excited about that. What it has breached though is the line that I've been looking at for a number of weeks, which is around about 27,500. We closed below that, around about 29,100. We made a slight move up today. There's a few hours of that one to go, but it'll be interesting to see where that is and potentially what that's going to mean in terms of price going forward. We look at things like the dollar. Now, the dollar's had an incredible, I'll bring this up on the bigger screen, V reversal. Last week, it looks like it was curtains for the dollar, really dumping through the 100 level, but finding some sort of level around about 99.5. And then since then, last few days, it's been ripping back up. And this is looking to make a fairly decent recovery. And what we're actually seeing now is we're running into that kind of level that we were at April through May. Having a bit of a bounce from that at the moment. But we've got news events this week. We've got earning calls this week, which, could help move the S&P, which will also then in turn help move the Dixie, normally in the other way. But that being said, excuse me, if we actually take a look at the S&P, this is something that has just not wanted to stop on its rally up, and it's continued to climb. So we talk about normally the Dixie and the S&P being inversely correlated. Well, actually, last few days certainly the Dixie's just been running away with the S&P. This one's continuing to climb. There is some form of channel which we've drawn in the past. I'll just draw it like loosely, and that is really loosely. It's because I normally take it from down here, probably on the weekly as well. And then, I think I drew it from there last time. That's not right. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to move this leg. Just take in this bit here. But you can kind of see it's been running up this channel. This is very roughly drawn. We're going to draw it a bit better later on. It's at an incredibly steep angle, and I'm just wondering whether or not there's going to be some form of correction. But we've been thinking about that for, well over a month, well over 30, 40 days, and it's continued to climb. So I'm not really suggesting that there's going to be an immediate turnaround at the moment. We have got some, FOMC tomorrow. Kind of everybody, I'll show you a little bit later on, but kind of everybody thinks they know what's going to happen. That generally means that the price or the action has been priced into the market. And Ethereum, just going back, because we kind of missed that one, it's kind of been doing what Bitcoin's been doing. No real change there. What is a bit disappointing is obviously I'd try and do a little bit of prep beforehand, and I sat down and look at the altcoins, and a lot of them are very I mean, there's just not been much movement, certainly on the higher time frames, to really get excited or concerned about. But we're going to try and break them down. We will go into some lower time frames, and we'll just try and see if there's any key levels. For anyone that's interested in trading, or anyone that's interested in, buying in a spot position, then we can have a look at some levels that I would certainly be considering. Let's have a look. Okay, a few are coming through. Thanks for that, guys. We will have a look at those in a bit. But right now, we'll just jump into a bit of a recap. Oh, here are some of the questions. I'll come back to those later. We'll have a little bit of a recap of some of the news. So, obviously, this time last week, we went into some detail looking at the Ripple case and what the outcome of that is. And I'm not going to go back through that at the moment. What I will just say, I didn't bother bringing up a news article about it, but the SEC have suggested that they aren't agreeing with the findings from the judge. Now, they haven't out and out said that they're going to appeal it. If they had, I would have probably brought this up as a proper article, but it seems to suggest that they're giving it a bit of time. They don't like what they're hearing, no surprise there, and they are seriously considering an appeal. Okay, I think we all kind of expected that. But what else has happened this week? Well, as you can see the title here, we've had some Binance FUD, and Ripple, not XRP, but Ripple as a business, as a company, are starting to think that actually there's a real opportunity for US banks to get involved and actually start utilizing Ripple and then therefore XRP. We'll go into these in a bit more detail. So the crackdown on crypto firms by the United States SEC appears to have severely affected Binance's business. Now we know that there have been some cases that have been thrown against Binance from the SEC. They've also got them from the CFTC as well. And so they've been getting quite a bit of FUD. And during the past few weeks, as it says here, the crypto exchange reportedly fired over 1,000 employees, slashing some benefits. Now, it was interesting because we had that pump up last week. Let's just get that chart back up again. We had this move back up on Thursday the 13th. And then on Friday the 14th, I think this was the right day. This was when the Binance was going to get rid of 1,000 jobs and the market seemed to correct. But actually, I think, and this article kind of suggests, that news had been out there for some time. And so this was more, I feel, a bit of a bit of news put out there to disguise an actual move. Because if you'd been involved in looking at crypto Twitter and looking at crypto news and everything else, these jobs had already been circled for downsizing due to the regulatory climate in which they face. And Binance has come out and said that themselves, that the current market environment and regulatory climate have caused a decline in profits, suggesting more cuts may be in the works. Now, we know they've been shutting down offices all over the world throughout the year. I think, was it Holland or Belgium was one of the more recent ones. And so these 1,000 employees are just people that are apart from that. Now, obviously, there are other instances where jobs are going to have to go, and they've done it. And we've also seen significant players within Binance's hierarchy also leaving as well. They will count as a part of the 1,000 employees. A spokesperson told Cointelegraph the firm would consider scaling back on certain products, business units, staff benefits, and policies in response to the business and regulatory concerns. Goes on to talk about what I just mentioned, about the 13 charges brought against them. And they're still being investigated by the United States Justice Department, targeting its activities and executives, which we covered a few weeks, if not months back. But as it says, I'm not necessarily saying there's no smoke without fire, but Binance is still the biggest centralized exchange. I think it's probably the biggest exchange in the crypto space. 63 billion assets. And then it breaks down what they are: Tether, Bitcoin, BNB, and Wrapped ETH. Okay, I think that's probably all we need to touch on that one. And then Ripple's CLO, which is the chief legal officer, he suggests that the court ruling they had, could encourage his banks to now adopt Ripple and XRP. So Stu Auditory, chief legal officer of Ripple Labs, believes that US banks may turn to XRP for cross-border transactions following the recent court ruling. Hopefully, this quarter will generate a lot of conversations in the United States with customers, and hopefully some of those conversations will actually turn into real business. With the label of security seemingly no longer hanging over XRP, and if you remember what we went through last week, the judge was very clear that XRP on its own is not a security. In fact, the only way in which there was a security violation was how Ripple Labs utilized XRP, and that was with institutional investors. So we've got our, for those of you that haven't watched it, our second crypto that has been confirmed, not by the SEC, but by a judge, that isn't a security. So yeah, that's just recapping last week. If you haven't watched it, it's definitely worth watching. Just the 30-40 minutes we went through on that. It was in quite a lot of detail, but I think some interesting parts that come from it. Anyway, partnerships and banks dampened by the SEC lawsuit could now find new life. Bank of America has been eyeing the blockchain firm in 2019, and American Express first partnered with Ripple in 2017. So they seem to be relatively happy with that. I'm not going to go through the Binance one again. There's a few others there, but just moving on to another Ripple story, which has come from this. This is, whilst it is about Ripple and the ETFs, this is from Brian Armstrong, who hopefully most of you should know is the CEO of Coinbase. And he's effectively said that, the timing of everything, the Ripple ruling, the, re-energizing of the ETFs has now sort of driven lawmakers to have a think about where they're going. So you think the first 6 months of this year, we were wondering whether or not this is choke point 2.0, there's significant restrictions in the United States. And we were all talking about how they're just going to stagnate the market. They're going to drive away any innovation from the United States. Well, Brian Armstrong said, now come out and said, look, I've been speaking to representatives on both sides of the houses. And from what I understand, actually, there's a real urgency to get some sort of regulatory understanding and legislation out there to provide the guidance that I suppose companies like Coinbase require, but also crypto projects to actually move forward. So Brian has said, United States lawmakers have renewed focus on regulatory clarity in the crypto space following talks with key officials. So he spoke about this yesterday, and he said that he met lawmakers last week ahead of discussions and votes on pieces of legislation aimed to provide regulatory clarity on digital assets. Coinbase CEO reportedly said the SEC's lawsuit against Ripple drove a lot of urgency among members of Congress. Patrick McHenry, which most of you might remember, we covered him. He was the guy in the bow tie. He was sat on the chair and he gave Gary Gensler a bit of a doing. He's very much committed to getting legislation. We kind of knew that. He was very pro in that conversation. Maxine Waters, I'll be honest, I don't really know who she is, but he seems happy enough to name drop. Is looking at it deeply, and as far as I can tell, I think the Ripple case drove a lot of urgency. Same with these Bitcoin ETF filings that we've been seeing from BlackRock, Fidelity, and other major financial service firms. There were several draft bills on crypto and blockchain currently being discussed in the House of Representatives and the Senate, including the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act. Wow, that's a mouthful. Responsible Financial Innovation Act. I'm not going to bother reading all of these. Obviously he's got some skin in the game with this, because again, we know the SEC not only did they go after Binance, but they've also gone after Coinbase as well. So they're being sued for security violations. And I'm sure he's going to be leaning very heavily on both sides of the arguments that were made in the Ripple case, both for Coinbase's actions, but also things that may hinder them. Again, won't go over it. Go and have a look at last week's video. We went through it all then. But definitely interesting to see. This one, let me just have a drink first, sorry. This next story, I was kind of like reticent to put it in there, but I kind of feel like, it's a crypto talk. We've got to talk about it. So here we go. Twitter apparently is no more. And Elon, I think most of you that use Twitter, or even maybe that you don't, you're probably aware of this. He's rebranded the platform to X. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, if there's some crazy way of pronouncing it, but for me right now, it's X. You may have seen that the Twitter headquarters has had the word Twitter taken down, and the bird has been replaced by the X. If you go onto the app, there's the X in the top left-hand corner, although the app logo itself is still the Twitter bird, whatever you want to call it. This is something that, I think it probably came as a surprise that it's happened so swiftly without any real acknowledgement or consultation. But, Elon has kind of said right from the start that he wants to turn Twitter into something completely different. And whilst he really enjoys the freedom of speech that you can get from there, and a useful platform. He wants to turn this into a much bigger platform, kind of rivaling what China's WeChat is, where it is a social media, but it's also a form of payment. And although I've never used it, from what I understand, speaking with people, some sort of big brother kind of technology just to make sure that their citizens are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I'm not sure Elon, he may want to take it that far, whether or not he can. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, so Twitter is being rebranded as X. Now, before I go into the article, just one thing just to bear in mind is, I mean, for me, it doesn't necessarily make sense, it's just my opinion here, to totally get rid of the brand Twitter. And maybe they might look to actually move it, much like what Facebook did when their parent company was then turned into Meta, but the app itself remained as Facebook. I don't know if that's what Elon's going to do. We've seen him change the logo to a Dogecoin. We've seen him change it to other things in the past. Is he just doing this just to troll us for a little bit? But actually there'll be some sort of formal announcement to just say, look, Twitter's main company will now be referred to as X, but the app itself, because it's, what it had 12, 13, 14 years of people referring to it as Twitter and tweets. It's got that sort of establishment. It seems ludicrous to try and get rid of that branding at the moment, but that's just me. That's my opinion. Now into the article. So Musk has said in a recent interview that if done right, X has the potential to become half of the global financial system. So this is where the analogies between what X is going to become versus WeChat. The popular social media platform Twitter officially rebranded to X after months of teasing by its former CEO Elon Musk. The rebranding saw the popular social media app ditch its recognizable bird logo even and replace it with a simple X. The rebranding also saw social media app change its color scheme from blue to black. I didn't notice that on my app. Maybe I need to update it. As part of the rebranding, Twitter's URL has changed to x.com, domain name linked with Musk's 1999 financial service startup, which was sold to PayPal. And then I'm not going to bother clicking on these links. It goes on to explain what x.com was early online banking, and obviously that's why it moved up to PayPal. He's used X in several of his business interests. So we've got SpaceX, we've got Tesla. I think there's an X model. His son's named after, one of his sons has got X in it. It's got X Corp, established in March, which is the parent company of Twitter, which is making me think, is that where this is really going? I'm just trying to scroll down and see if there's anything worth mentioning. Yeah, so in a recent interview, Musk reiterated the main motive behind rebranding to X was to create an everything app, a concept popular in China. Chinese social media applications such as WeChat are used for text and video calls and have provisions to pay bills, book cabs, book restaurants, and other financial activities without leaving the app. This way he goes on to say that if done correctly, X could become a popular platform for finance, banking, payments, and data. Didn't Facebook try that? And I think it kind of fell on its face. They had a marketplace and all that kind of stuff and games on it and everything. And most of that's now all been absolutely stripped back. I think the marketplace is still there, don't get me wrong, but it was like front and center. Whereas now you kind of have to navigate to it. So whether or not it'll be a success is just how well he goes about managing it. There's obviously a lot of haters at the moment that just want it to stay Twitter, want it to stay as thing. I'm not necessarily bothered myself. Whether or not I'd end up going to use it as my everything app, I'm not sure, but I'm also open to it in the fact that if it's so simple to do, then maybe that's what we end up doing. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. What is interesting, and I missed this again. Let me just. So I haven't rebought my Doge bag, and you'll see the last couple of days Doge has been flying. It's up 10% today alone, but it had a good move yesterday as well. At first glance you can think, well, why is Doge moving up? Has it something to do with Twitter? And it actually has, but it's very discreet in what's gone on. So the reason I can certainly see that it's pumping is if you go onto Elon Musk's page, I'm gonna have to zoom in my screen here for you. But if you go to the location icon, there's an X now, but next to it is the little Doge icon. So everyone's getting excited about Doge again. And, the talk again about it being a payment platform. What are they going to use? Is it going to be USD? Is it going to be some form of cryptocurrency? And if it is, what's it going to be? Part of me, again, I just think this is the Elon effect. I think this is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. I've got a feeling this is going to disappear in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and Doge will drop back down. But I talked beginning of June, maybe end of May, about Elon and the Doge effect, and sorry, the Elon effect for Doge. This is another ideal opportunity where that's going to happen. If we just go back to, the price from the announcement beginning of the week, it's kind of Sunday night actually, but let's just do it for Monday. Price is up 15% today. It's been up as high as probably about 16%, 16.5% since that move. So again, if anyone was holding a bit, then there's an ideal opportunity for some sort of swing trade there, which is something that I've done once this sort of year. Never really bought it back in because I don't know, just slipped my mind, and it's happened again. Now I just got to remember when it comes back down to have another go at it. But yeah, interesting as it is. Let's just catch up on some of the comments. So BNB, I'll definitely have a look at. It's on my list. Link is as well. I wonder which $5 graphic designer from Fiverr designed the X logo. Yeah, it's pretty simple, but that's what you kind of need, isn't it? I mean, the bird was fairly simple as well. X makes it sound like a porn site. Yeah, could definitely there. Elon does have a background in payments, exactly, with X.com, went into PayPal, etc. So there's definitely a genuine experience that he could bring to that. So I'm not disputing that at all. Facebook's popularity has been declining year on year. Yeah, it has. I rarely even go on it. When RT was back on Facebook, it was pretty much the only reason why I was on there. And now that we've moved across fully, I don't even know if the Facebook page is still live, but yeah, I don't. Migs, so he could get X to work as WeChat. Yeah, exactly. WeChat's interface is far better. I've never actually seen it. I don't necessarily know, but just to give Twitter or X the benefit of the doubt, they're only just moving across there. You're right. They're gonna have to make some significant changes, particularly on the mobile UI, and just make that seamless and easy to do. But I've also heard that they're going to change the terms. You're not going to have followers, you're going to have viewers and all that kind of stuff now. So, it looks like there's some wholesale changes that just of how you're going to approach it, the marketing of it. And I sound like some sort of graphic designer or architect when I say the user's experience when they enter the app. But you know what I mean. Twitter just seems to be a place for cute kittens and the occasional stabbing video. My feed is crazy at the moment. It's just there is an awful lot. There's an increase of stabbing, shootings, car, crime, and all that. I'm like, I don't even like this. I try and block some just to hope the algorithm picks it up because I'm not that necessarily that interested. But yeah, it has been crazy the last few months how much that has come along. But anyway, that's where we are with that. There's another little news story I'm going to cover a bit later on, but not too much in the news that I think is was worth mentioning. I've touched on this next point just a couple of times, but just for those of you that aren't sort of aware, and there's not a real reason why you all need to be, but we do have an FOMC. It's happening now. It's a 2-day affair. Tomorrow is a culmination in which the federal fund rate is released at 7 p.m. UK time, and then at 7:30 there is the press conference that goes with it. Now, we had CPI last week. We're down. Was it 3.1%, something like that? It's pretty crazy how low we've got to. 3% flat. So a lot of people were thinking, well, do we really need to raise interest rates? Jerome Powell's been very clear that they expect 2 more interest rates increases before the end of the year, and there will be no easing of interest rates until the end of this year, maybe even as far as Q2 next year. But with the way that inflation over the last 3 months has just fallen from 5% down to 3%, I think a lot of people, you can actually in the last 5 months from 6% down to 3%, it's halved itself, thinking that it's on there. But if you have a look, I'll refresh this just to make sure, but it is a 98.9% chance of a 25 basis points increase. So the current rate is between 500 and 525, and pretty much every man and his dog, 99% are saying we're going to go to 525 to 550, so a 25 basis point increase. Now, what we normally find on FOMC days, we mention this quite a lot, go back to the charts here, I'm not going to bring up the exact days, but it is quite volatile, movements up and down. Now, If it is 25 basis points, I've got a feeling that's probably priced in already. That's probably where we're seeing things like the S&P still climbing, the dollar maybe having a bit of a pullback today, off the back of just the surety that that's where we're looking to go. But it doesn't mean there's not going to be volatility at the time it's actually announced. And again, 7 p.m. the statement is released and the rate. 30 minutes later, that's when Powell starts to speak. And about 20 minutes after he starts speaking, 15, 20 minutes, he starts to answer questions. So the first 15, 20 minutes is kind of dull because it's just well thought out words that basically don't mean anything. But then the journalists get an opportunity to answer things. He's got to think on his feet, and that's where you get it. So comes sort of, 6 o'clock onwards, we might start to see some movement. 7 o'clock, we're going to see some movements and volatility. But then 7:30 till about 8:30 UK time, that's when we really start to see the volatility. And even if it's priced in, we're either going to just remain those levels or just continue climbing up. Now, if for whatever reason we get a 50 basis points, that might actually send the markets the other way. And if actually it's just remains the same, I don't think anyone's thinking it's going to get eased. I think again that will have some positivity, of course it will, but I think we'll still get to see that volatility. I don't know why I've just got into watching them now. I find them quite interesting. So I'll be watching it. I'll be commenting on it as it happens at least, and we'll see where it goes. If you have got any open trades open, just bear that in mind for tomorrow with where you're looking for taking profits and stop losses, because it normally always moves significantly in both directions. Yeah, so that's where we are with that. One other thing that I think it's kind of newsworthy, we've talked about it in the group, and I think it's worth just talking about now, is Worldcoin. So Worldcoin launched this week. So the guys behind ChatGPT launched a token. I'm not really here. This isn't a research side of things. It's a bit of a health warning. It's already been mentioned in Discord. But if you are looking to purchase this token as spot, as some sort of play, I'd just be very careful about it. It's only been live for 24, 36 hours. So that's one thing. It's scary, the tokenomics, the market cap, the fully diluted market cap, everything else has got some significant alarm bells. And for a project that is so new, that feels like it may go up, you may get an opportunity. Of course you can. If things happen, hype can get there. But this is something that, don't be afraid to cut your losses or to bag some profit if you are going to do it. Because for me, any sort of even a short-term hold, I'm talking like micro holds, yes, maybe there's an opportunity. Short-term, medium-term, certainly long-term, this is not the time to be looking into this. As I said, I'm not necessarily going to go into the tokenomics. You can find to do that. But this is launched. It's got a lot of hype behind it. It's got a lot of marketing behind it. But let's just have a look at some of the things. So it's currently sitting at $2.24 at the moment. It's got a market cap of $240 million, putting it at rank 120. So that's just crazy. It's only been live 24 hours, already $240 million. I actually want to have a look at the circulating supply and the fully diluted market cap, because based on its current market cap, the fully diluted market cap for this is $22 billion. $22 billion for a project that's a day old. And it has 10 billion tokens as total supply. But only 108 million have been released at the moment. That's just over 1% of the circulating supply. So talk about, the amount of tokens that still to flood onto the market. Any position you currently had could be significantly diluted. And so, yes, there's concerns at the moment that Sam Bankman-Fried's an early investor in this. He's got a pretty tarnished reputation at the moment. Why would you want to be helping him out so he can dump his bags on you? We know he's going to need some money. I'm not really going to go fully into the vesting schedule, but have a look at the lockup periods. But what I will say is you can actually go up to the token unlock Worldcoins here. And in the first year alone, we're looking at around about 10% is going to be released at 1.1 billion. So 10 times what's currently out is going to be released over the next 12 months. There is a schedule of unlock where it's going. Now, this article here says it's 500 million have been released at the moment, but both CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko claim that they've both got verified data that it's 108 million. So that's what I'm going on at the moment. If it's half a billion that's already out, well, fair enough. But I'm just basing it on that. So the next upcoming lockup, saying is in a year's time. I don't think it is a shelf. I think it is linear. Yeah. It's not a cliff. This is just released over time. You can kind of see initially it's the community tokens that go. So investors and the reserve, they're all held for a bit of time. And then after, I think, what's that, first year, then suddenly everything else comes out. And it takes 15 years to effectively get to 10 billion. I said I wasn't going to talk about tokenomics. 10 billion is provisionally where it's capped. There is room for inflation if the governance protocol kicks in. However, that allegedly is not allowed to happen for the first 15 years. So you have to wait and see. I can't help myself. I'm just going to show you the website. It's just vanilla, I mean, this is it. This is the first page. It's a co-founding letter within there. And then we can go into the website. Here it is. It's basically some sort of ID. It kind of feels like it's maybe some sort of going to move towards some sort of payment mechanism. Sam, it's not Altman, I can't remember what his name is. He was an early investor in RSR, which is another token we did as a research token, which is some sort of payment, peer-to-peer payments mechanism we've talked about in the past. So there's obviously some sort of interest that way. But have a look at where it's going. Now, you can't use this in the United States. So obviously they've got one massive blocker there already. And that's it. I'm not going to say anymore. It's not a research token. I don't want to waste too much time on it. Just if you are considering investing in it, make sure you've done some significant research. There's also people in the chat talking about maybe shorting it. I believe it is now available on Bybit to short. So there's definitely an opportunity there for you. You just got to try and find an ideal place to get in. And just given how new it is, that can be quite difficult because it is getting marketed quite a lot. It is new. There's no TA as such. And, for all we know, it could have a big pump up. We do see these things in the first couple of weeks pump up and then the bags get dumped on people, unsuspecting people. So we'll have to wait and see with that one there. But that's something just to bear in mind. Let's close a few of these down as we go in. And I'll have a look what's in chat. Whilst I drink all the water down myself. I just bought some vegan eggs with my Worldcoin. Did you? Well, if you did, good on you. I mean, I don't know how you get a vegan egg, but maybe that was a joke. It probably is now I think about it and who's put it. Does it mention the dates when it releases the next batch of tokens? So as I just showed there, Token Unlock says it's in a year's time, but the actual graph suggests it's out. You can go into Masari, and I did have a look in the tokenomics. Oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, aren't I? Just because. Right, if you go into Worldcoin, there it is. Look, it's trending number 1. I mean, that's scary. If you go into the white paper, which I don't like particularly the feel of the white paper, but it is what it is. It's very wordy. Even this is. You have to scroll down the pages to get to it. So we've got the breakdown. Do you think that's the breakdown of it? No, this is the breakdown of the orb, which is some sort of retina scan. I'm not going into it. So we still haven't got there yet. Still got just a page of where you can find the addresses, got the allocation, and then we've got the unlock supply. So again, this seems to indicate that in year 1, we do go, from 0 to probably about 1.5 billion. And that is not a cliff. That's linear. So there should be, I don't know if it's every day, if it's every month, every week. I'd have to actually read through this a little bit. There is sort of vesting periods and everything else. Let's see if I can just circulating supply at launch. Maximum circulating supply is 143 million. So the 100 million that we know about, which has been basically given to the market makers outside the US, can't do it in the US. And then there's 43 million. And we've seen it's 108. So there's a little bit that's come out there. Okay. So I'm skipping just to see if I can see. No, it doesn't look like it says, but you can just see, look, this is supposed to be tokenomics and it is wordy. I mean, you think that's great and it's, there's a lot of detail there, but I mean, I only read the first bit and it was, didn't really wow me in terms of giving me information I needed to know. It was just words for the sake of words. And then when I kind of got to these points, I stopped reading and just started looking at charts and numbers. Anyway, that's where we are there. Could easily be a 99% correction from here. Yeah. For every human, as a human, I really felt the relatability. Yeah, exactly. So they got these orbs. I can't believe I'm talking about it. They got these orbs, which basically scan your retina. And for anyone that did that, they got given Worldcoin tokens. But but we don't know how many. We don't know when they're going to get given, from what I understand. Now they're in 32 cities. So it's not exactly, you know, scattered all over the place, but you know, pretty much the big cities. What I will do, let me just bear with me a second. I can't remember which Twitter account I had it on. So it must be the other one. Sorry. So someone that I've obviously been following now is John Deaton. He was the solicitor that broke down a lot of the XRP stuff, and it's like, this what caught my attention. What the F did he just say? Did he literally say he can't talk about how Worldcoin is distributed because of regulatory uncertainty in the United States? So anyway, this gentleman here, Peditor, he's having a conversation with some of the people behind Worldcoin. And then here we go.
And that's the name.
Don't know if you can hear it.
Worldcoin. Yes. How does that actually get into people's hands, and what is like the distribution plan for like how do I get Worldcoin and how much do I get, and what are the details behind that?
Look, many of the details we can just not talk about here for the regulatory uncertainty in the United States. You're certainly aware of. So we'll not go too much into details.
So he can't talk about the tokenomics and the distribution because of regulatory uncertainty in the United States. Bearing in mind, you can't even use this token in the United States. So I don't know if he was a founder, I don't know who that particular person was, or if he's just someone part of the team, can't even talk to you about when you're going to get this token, then Jesus, run away. So yeah, I'm not advocating that one, I'm sorry. Bybit will be doing stop-ins for sure. Yeah, they probably will. I think you're right. The white paper is too white for my liking. I think it just feels sketchy. You know, I think people just get excited because the guy who backed ChatGPT is bringing out a token. But you know, that's as far as most people will bother to go. And what are they doing with this retina data? You know, everyone's got a unique retina scan. Well, where's that going? But anyway, tinfoil hat away. Okay, so we're going to start talking about Bitcoin. We're going to start talking about price now. We're going to start moving into it. But, you know, we're going to ease from news into price action by actually talking about something that pretty important happened yesterday. Bitcoin block mined its 800,000. Bitcoin mined its 800,000th block yesterday. I think I can't work it out. I was trying to work it out in my head if it was just before or just after midnight on the 24th. 800,000 blocks since inception. It has been going. Doesn't have a CEO, doesn't have a team, not had any downtime. It's just continued to churn away. Why is that important for us? Well, most of you may not be aware of this, but the Bitcoin halving is not based on 4 years. It's based on every 210,000 blocks that are mined. So, you know, 800,000 is not at there, but we're 40,000 away from it. Approximately 9 months. But yeah, 40,000 away from the next one, but just passing that 800 was a you know, it's a landmark moment. Kind of goes into the article to talk about what was within it, which I don't think we necessarily need to go through. But yeah, Bitcoin just produced a block number 800,000 blocks without a central bank, without a government, without a CEO, without having to ask for permission. I think, you know, that one tweet there kind of summarizes why a lot of people are into Bitcoin. And just the fact that it has continued to work despite the hundreds of thousands of, well, maybe not hundreds of thousands, hundreds or maybe thousands of articles and commentaries that Bitcoin was going to die, it's pointless, whatever. It just keeps working regardless of how you feel about it. It's continued to deliver now for, you know, somewhere, 14 years? So yeah, 14 and a half years or so. So yeah, impressive to see. If we have a look here, we're approximately, this changes all the time. Some websites have it about 270 days. This is currently has it at 278 days. Matter of fact, this has changed a week, 8 days since I looked at it, because it was going to be on Sunday, the 21st of April, when I looked at it earlier on today, and now it's been pushed back. So this will just fluctuate a little bit. But you can kind of see we need to get to 840,000. We're now at 800,241. But yeah, putting in your diary somewhere, well, April 2024 really, which you think about is just not far away. We're August next week, so August, September, October, November. I have to use my fingers here. August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 9 months, as we said, 9 months away from the halving, which again, you know, For those of you that weren't around at the last halving, don't stay up, don't set your alarm just to watch it. Nothing really happens, but it's kind of the unofficial starting gun for the next bull run, or has been previously. It's what a lot of people are working towards this time. And I know there's naysayers that say it's a different macroeconomic system, but you know what? People say that all the time. People said that in the last one when we're coming up to 2020, and you know, COVID and everything else. It was never going to be a bull run because of that. And lo and behold, it was. Yes, okay, we printed trillions of dollars, trillions of pounds to help it up that far. But right now, I'm just believing in Bitcoin. I'm kind of sounding like a Marxist now. And it will do its thing until I'm proved wrong, I suppose. But, and this is what I'm slowly working towards it, I promise you. And I'm not going to go through a lot of these charts. I know Sam covered them at the beginning of his trading pub last week, so I'm not going to, but it's a good website to go to every now and again, particularly if you're not necessarily worried about a trading position, you're just interested in a real macro picture of some of the charts here. But some of the, you know, a lot of people will have seen this chart, the stock to flow model. And again, I'm not necessarily gonna run through it. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so we can see it a bit better. And you may not really realize what the colors are representing. The colors are representing the days until the next halving. So, you know, the fact that it's blue down here doesn't mean it's because the price has fallen low. That's just because we're getting closer and closer to the next halving event. And when we get to this sort of like real purple color, maroon, I don't know what color it is, maybe I'm partially colorblind. That's when we trigger through. But if we just zoom back out, if I can, you can kind of see, you know, maroon went into the bull run. Why is that? Done that. Let me just refresh that. Normally, that little, yeah, that's how it should be. So, you know, it goes maroon, we get a kickstart into a bull, and goes maroon, then goes parabolic, goes maroon, goes parabolic. And so that's what we're expecting this time. It'll go maroon, it'll go parabolic, and we'll start to capture the stock to flow chart. Again, we'll get probably above the mean. How far above it, you know, that's kind of been reducing as we go by, but that's to be expected as volatility does die down. Well, why do I mention it? Well, you know what? Simon beat me to the punch on this, and god damn him, he didn't actually. I promise you, I could draw up the properties to show you that I saved this file hours before he put it out, but I came across this today. The good thing about it is Simon didn't actually explain it, so I don't feel like I've lost anything because I can still talk about it. But we've got the Bitcoin spiral clock, which is, I only saw this today myself, and I thought it was a really clever way of just trying to put some data at the moment as to what is going on, where it is. Oops, sorry there. What's going on? Where we currently sit with things, and actually have a look at you know, some previous data, and just kind of, you know, a lot of people, well, everybody knows what a clock face looks like, and so we can kind of gauge just from our understanding of how time in theory moves along the clock face as to how far and how long we've got to go. And then from that just helps visualize, you know, one, for anyone that's a bit impatient, but two, where key events are actually occurring and how far we've got, or how far close we are, how far away we are from those key events happening. So this was you know, a really good diagram. What you've got, unfortunately I can't hide anything, so I'm just going to try and talk you through it. So you got the numbers 1 through 12 to represent the clock face, and they're actually broken up in half an hours. So 12 o'clock is when the halvings always happen. That's representing the halvings. We've got then this orange line which represents price, and it spirals around as it goes, and obviously each time it crosses 12 o'clock, that's a new halving event, and you've got roughly another 4 years to get all the way around. Now we've got these subdivides here, which, you know, the 12, the 3, the 6, and the 9, all they are representing are 12, 3, 6, and 9 on the clock, and sort of where we are in terms of how many blocks have been mined in any given halvening. So you get round to, because remember it's 210,000. So you get round to 3, which is a quarter, it's 52,500 blocks. Obviously it's 105, 157.5, and then 210. And then you do that to the fourth time, which is where we'll be. And that's how we got to the fourth halvening. And for those of you that aren't aware, but God, you should all be, when we get to the next halvening, what's going to happen is the block rewards are going to drop from, I'm going to make a fool of myself here, is it 6.25 at the moment to 3.125? I think that's right. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, so that's kind of what we can see here. Now, This doesn't then tell the best picture, unfortunately. And there is a live website you can go to, BitBow. They've got loads of different data, but this actually gives you the Bitcoin halving spiral, but it doesn't tell you what I'm about to tell you in terms of like correlations, but you can kind of see how the spiral is going against the price. It's not the best, but it's there in case you're interested. But what's come from the article, I've got it on the other screen here, is that we've talked about it, to get round the clock is effectively 4 years. And the last two all-time highs occurred round about at the 4:30. Okay, so you imagine a clock face around about 4:30 where this purple line is. I'm going to show you in a bit more detail later. The last three crashes, so the last three market bottoms, all-time lows in that cycle, were around about the 7:30 line. And again, I'll show you how that is represented a little bit later on. We are currently sat at around about 9:45. So we've missed, if this is to be true, if we're going to play the same fractal patterns, we've hit our bottom. Yeah, we may get close to it, but all-time low, in theory, always happens around about 7:30. We're at 9:30. We've got another 2 hours and 15 minutes, or around about 9 months, until we get to the halvening. But then the big thing there is bull runs typically kick off around about 6 months after halving events, and that's approximately at 1:30. So that's what I said, like, setting your alarm clock to wake up and watch the halving. It's something to be interesting to see. That blocks mine, great. But it doesn't automatically mean that price is going to double. It takes time for momentum to build, buy the rumor, sell the news events and all that kind of stuff heard. But typically, actually, what we start to see is the price really starts to pick up around about 1:30, approximately 6 months after the halving event. Now here's one I did earlier, which I'll bring up if I can find it. Okay, so that's not what I wanted to do. Can I make that bigger? Not really, right, I have to zoom in on this. It's a bit blurred, but what I've done, the circle's in white, because I've zoomed in, it doesn't look as clear, so apologies there. So on the left-hand side, you've got the one from the Twitter account, and the right-hand side is one that I just put into Paint and then just drew some circles on. I think it might have been Canva, actually. So the white circles represent the all-time lows. As you can see, typically they do fall around about 7:30. So the very first cycle, this was like, God, I don't know when this must have been, like 2011, 10, 12 sort of thing, right after inception, but technically it was there. This was actually a bit closer to 9 o'clock. But in the other ones, because this happened so quickly, the other ones when it's a bit more stabilized, we're starting to see around about that 7:30 time. And then again, all-time highs. The problem with Bitcoin is it's always making all-time highs. So I'm just looking at the height of each of the bull run sectors. And again, you can kind of see it's between 4 and 4:30. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because we're only here at 9:30. If it's 9 months just to get round to 1:30, we've then got another, 9, 12 months to get back round to where we are there. So we're probably talking, anywhere from 18 to 20, 21 months before we might start to see an all-time high. So we've got plenty of time on ourselves. And unfortunately, a lot of people think that crypto is all about just, getting rich quick, and there are definitely opportunities to do that. But at the moment, we're in the slump of a bear market. Well, actually, maybe not in the slump of a bear market, but we're certainly, in that threshold between bull and bear market. We've certainly been sat through one. And now it's about understanding where we're at, building a position if that's what you want to do, and then just almost sitting on your hands and waiting, formulating your plan, improving your understanding of what it is that you're trying to achieve out of this, what you want to get out of it, and then making those moves as and when they occur. But hopefully this clock face can at least give some visual representation of how far we've still got to go. But at the same time, it's not that far away, certainly until that uptick, till that time where we're proud to tell people that we're into crypto and we're into Bitcoin. It's tough in 2022 to tell everyone that you were into Bitcoin, you were into cryptocurrencies, you're just being laughed at. But we get to 2024 and we start telling people we're in crypto, and you suddenly get your friends going, I heard you were in crypto, what should I do? I typically tell people, I told them last time, well, you should have been in 4 years ago and started building your position earlier. But yeah, so we can kind of see where that is. Hopefully that kind of helps. Like I said, I've never seen this kind of representation before. I know the roots, you know, the carrot guy that walks around wearing a carrot over his face so he can't be doxxed. He's got one of these as well, but it's not, as I was going to bring it up, but it's not as detailed. Matter of fact, I've got a copy of that. I'll show you what I mean. Here we go. So he's got them indicated here, but this is from, I actually don't know when it is. It's a few months ago, because we're, you know, this is 9:15. We're at 9:45 now. So he's not updated it, but again, he's kind of showing where bottoms and highs are. So very interesting to see that kind of stuff. And it's something that I'll certainly, you know, follow and just sort of keep an eye on going forward. Right, let's just shut that down. Let's close that. Okay. Do I need to speak about anything else on that? Don't think so. Perfect. Right, so that's it. We've 50 minutes in. We're actually going to start talking about price a bit more, which normally it's 10 minutes to go, but actually we've got plenty of time to run through things. So I'm going to obviously try and, you know, I'm going to talk about the bigger picture of Bitcoin. I'm going to then go on to smaller timeframes, and I'll kind of do the same with altcoins. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save them on a different chart, if you will, on TradingView. I'm just going to come back to those, you know, maybe in a month or two's time, and we'll just see how things have done. So this is what I use for my market makers. I'll just get rid of the volume candles at the bottom because they're not necessarily important for you guys at the moment. And on the daily, nothing's necessarily really changed at the moment. I'm still, you know, trying to understand whether or not this was rise 3, whether or not we're just in some sort of consolidation period before, you know, completing rise 3, or if rise 3 is actually complete and we've got some weird M about to form. But really, at the moment, there's nothing that is screaming to me either way. I still feel like there's the move up, I'll be honest. I think, you know, I think there's levels up here, you know, 33,000, 32, 33, 34,000. I think, you know, could be taken, and that could seem like an ideal opportunity for it to turn around. Those levels did start around about 32, and we kind of peaked just underneath it. It kind of feels like they missed the opportunity there, but you know, maybe this is just some sort of weird M which has a higher second peak before it's recovered. So nothing's changed in terms of my opinion on that over the last few weeks. I've kind of spoken about this. I've spoken about the similarities on each of these legs up. You know, this first leg up had a consolidation and a slight pullback before completing its leg up. That was the end of it. Then it dropped back down. This one had the same. That's not a very good way of drawing it because it's white. This one had the same. It ran up, but then it kind of stalled around here for a little bit before going up a bit further. And then it had that consolidation period. And, you know, this could very well just be doing the same and then going up for that consolidation period. So, you know, that's perfectly valid, perfectly fair. Now, moving away from the market maker, but I'll still use some of the indicators that we've got on here at the moment. What does alarm me at the moment, I'll be honest, is, you know, barring this pump out and dump back down, you know, I think it was what Ripple finding and then Binance announcement they're laying off staff. We've really struggled to get above these EMAs. These EMAs have now crossed and it's just pushing price down. And yesterday we pushed right away back down and we closed below. This is the daily. We closed below the 50 EMA, and today we've pushed up to it, but we have so far been rejected from it, and we're looking to close again. And again, you know, when this happens previously, we do seem to stay below it. You know, we need some big momentum. What got us through it last time? BlackRock ETF announcement. Big momentum pushing through it. But prior to that, for a month and a half, you know, 7 weeks, we were just struggling under these EMAs. We lost the 50, and we just, you know, that took us, when we lost it. Sorry, I was talking my hand over my mouth there. That took us best part of 5-6 weeks to get back through. So, you know, part of me is thinking we have lost that. Are we going to lose it? And we're also within these vector candle recoveries. There's an opportunity for us to potentially recover some of those. So that's not really market maker theory. That's just certainly what I'm kind of looking at on the daily chart there. And if we go on to the weekly, and we'll see if we can see anything there. I mean, the one thing you can say from a much bigger picture, though, is we're still in this uptrend, you know, and until we break 25, let's just call it, as soon as we close below 26,000, you can still say that we're still technically within this uptrend. And yeah, you know, when we're looking at this, we've come into, you know, strong areas of previous price support. We've come back down, and are we just now needing a bit of recovery time before bouncing back off? That very well may be so. So, from the bigger point of view, that's certainly where I'm looking. Now, I'll leave this chart behind. We'll come back to this particular chart pattern in a moment, because I'll start getting into a low time frame. So I'm just going to have a look. What Titcoin did YouTube channel interview him, I think, and explained this some time ago? What's it got? Okay, I'm not sure what you're talking about there, but if you could just elaborate which part you're talking about. I don't know if that was me looking at OneCoin or if that was me looking at the Bitcoin spiral. But yeah, I'll come back to that. So I'll just go into a sort of a cleaner chart, and this is something that, again, I've had for a while now. I put in Discord a few weeks ago. And I'll move on to a cleaner one at the moment, but if you just have a look, I'm trying to get it all onto the screen for you. Oops, not quite there now. There we go. This is what we had drawn. I must admit, I've gone down and I've actually adjusted these levels to correspond with what high block now looks like. So they've moved ever so slightly, but everything else has remained the same. And what's interesting, I mean, this is just sheer luck, trust me. But now you can see the lines I've drawn, previous touch points. This is a strong trend line. This is what I still feel at the moment. This is the area that I feel like we're going to attack. Could still take weeks to get there, you know, and then I feel like we'll get a strong bounce from that. A break below that, then I feel like we are going to be retesting. I think I'll go bearish then. I think we'll certainly be retesting 24,000 if that's the case. But if I just zoom in a bit closer now, as I say, this is nothing other than coincidence. But yeah, it just decided it was going to bounce right off my elliptical there, come back through. But again, you know, this is the 21. We're just sort of, we had this support. We were riding up 21. Is it a 21? Let's have a look. Yeah, 21. We've lost it, and now we're struggling at the moment. And you know, it's forcing us back down. We need to at least regain that and push ourselves back through. And again, this area, this was the area we're talking about, this greenish colored box of what I wanted us to break below. We broke below that now. We've closed below it. We actually haven't moved that far, and I touched on this a little bit earlier. You know, this big spike up we had cleared through that box. You know, you could have easily got excited the very next day. It recovered straight back through, and it's a similar kind of thing. And you look at the size of these movements on the days that they happened. Yeah, that was a 3% move there, but it's only a 3% move back down here. So if we're not getting super excited about a 3% pump upwards, which then recovered the very next day, should we really be getting really nervous or excited, depending if you're on the sideline still, about a 3% drop, even if it has dropped through the level that we're at? Because for all we know, today, tomorrow, a couple of days' time, it could come back, especially when we then tie in FOMC and, you know, where those announcements may take us. So I'm not suddenly selling everything, and I'm certainly not lining up anything else to buy at the moment. I'm just kind of sitting on my hands. It is a bit frustrating that, you know, part of trading life is, you know, just shut up and wait, sit down, just watch, see what's going on, and just picking the right moment to interact. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm not getting too nervous about that. I think, you know, there's still stuff I want to buy. So yeah, I'm happy that it's broken that level, but at the moment it needs to do more than just sit around here. Let's just bring that back. I go back now onto the other chart. Let's just go on some lower time frames. I've not been on any lower time frames to really know what this is going to be, so we may, you know, fall afoul of this. But I mean, 4 hour, it's kind of still looking like a consolidation period. I'm sure you could try and, if I break this down onto the 1 hour, maybe the 15-minute, we're looking like, you know, the 1 hour is definitely looking like we're having some sort of drops here, doesn't it? So whether or not this was our turning point, there's an M formation. Oops. M formation there. Some sort of consolidation. I don't know if this is all consolidation really in my mind, but then another drop down here. So we've had a drop 2 potentially on the 1 hour. We're starting to consolidate. Could well be. I mean, this is elongated. There's a weekend here. So that's going to have made that look longer than it necessarily needed to be. Matter of fact, there's 2 weekends worth. So really, the time the market has been open is only for 5 days or so. Maybe, you know, a week is when it could play out. So have we got an opportunity for another one and then another drop down? I can't necessarily rule that one out. I'm not going to get down to the 15. I'll just give myself a nosebleed. But yeah, I'm thinking that there. Oops, what I want to be on. Let's have a look at Ethereum. I mean, this is on the 1 hour. I mean, these drops are looking much more pronounced on Ethereum, to be honest. Again, if we're taking this feels like that was a very quick M formation there, I'll be honest. But we've had that consolidation, and then, yeah, we've had, I mean, I wouldn't class that as a drop down, I'll be honest. Maybe this one here, it's gone through the 50 and all the other EMAs. It's coming back up. It's retesting that now, but it's starting to bunch. We just zoom in there so you can see it a little bit better. Wish I'd done that. There we go. It's really starting to bunch in between the 50. Can never remember what that is. I should know it off by heart by now. The 10 and the 20. So, you know, have we got some sort of explosive move that's coming that's just necessarily building up? US session's about to close in, what, an hour's time? So we shall see. Maybe Asia's going to move it. If you have a look, Asia just kind of did nothing really today. It's actually just continued the whole way through. Okay. I'm sorry if I'm jumping around a bit too much. I'm just moving charts so we can just see things a little bit clearly in case we want to like, draw some trend lines or anything else. I mean, if we just take the trend lines away, take what I drew away and we just have a look at some of the other things I've done in the past, you know, we have a look at, it's definitely an area of interest where we're sitting on at the moment in terms of sort of this price support that's caught there. We can drag that all the way across to these spikes from there. There's something, I mean, yeah, I need to draw that better, but just so we can kind of see an area that we're looking at, I think that's, you know, understandable. But then likewise, the top of it, oops, I can't remove that. There we go. You know, this again, you know, so you can see why it's necessarily turned around now. But then have a look, zoom in and getting much closer. Put a fib from bottom to top. Let's get rid of these now. And I'll leave them on for now. But can you kind of see that bottom to top? I'm not drawing it perfectly. There. Yeah, this yesterday wick right down to the 618 and bounced off it. It's kind of making what it's doing here. But you know, if that's how that candle's going to close, I think there's more chance of it retesting the 618 than just moving back up to 786. You watch. It'll be a stonking green dildo tomorrow to prove me wrong. But yeah, that now makes sense as to why it chose that level to turn around, and it was within that previous area that we identified, which had, you know, a lot of noise over the last couple of years. So okay, certainly some things to have a look at there. In terms of, I'm just trying to see if there's any diagonal trend lines I want to draw over the one I've shown you. Not necessarily. I think on the daily that'd probably get quite messy. Let's just let's go through and have a look at some of the other ones. So Ethereum, I mean, straight away that Ethereum's got a trend line here, definitely. Some oops, not there. I'll probably be able to draw it a little bit better later on, but does it connect down to that dot as well? No, it doesn't. Let's take it back. Some sort of, actually it's snaked over there, and you know, again, we're going back to November now. We're going back to FTX crash time, $1,000. So you know, I'd be expecting 1800. I think there's a decent chance of a retest and a bounce, you know, from that level. Doesn't mean it can't be broken, of course, but at the moment, that's kind of held on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 previous occasions. So, there's hope that that could hold again, 1800. And if that's the case, maybe there's an opportunity both from a buying spot position and also potentially from a long. In terms of Fibonacci, let's try and take things a little bit closer. Okay. I can't dispute the levels because it's interacting off nicely, but this one, it's kind of fallen through, turned around a bit before the 0.5, but today it has now been held by the 618. So yeah, I think, I don't like to do week to week, but maybe that might clean it up. Oops. No, it doesn't. No, it's exactly the same. So, again, there's potentially something else there. I'm just trying to look, see if there's any vertical levels. I mean, the one level that I'd potentially draw, which would tie in with the bottom side of the 0.5, would be there. No, maybe not actually. I mean, there is something, these peaks, and then a bit there, obviously bouncing there. Maybe that. And then again, that down there. So, probably looking around about 1800, and then, break of those potentially over time getting down to 1700. I think we're getting down to 1700. It's lost this trend line. I've got to just ask the question, how's it lost it? Has Bitcoin lost that other trend line that I was talking about? And if so, potentially, yeah, we're looking at, if that's getting down to 24,000, maybe this is retesting 1700. But maybe even going low as 1600 just to sort of mirror where Bitcoin would end up on the 24,000 drop. But yeah, so they're kind of some of the things that I'd probably be looking at on Ethereum. Dot, man, of all the ones I just will. I mean, so we've had some sort of triple top, potential head and shoulders here. I mean, this middle one is higher than the others, but there does seem to be some form of ceiling there that it's not being able to get through. Similarly, there's potentially something there that maybe we've just gone and lost. If I draw that down to the spikes, I'm going to get rid of these in a second, but I'm just thinking it's playing this. It has obviously punched through, we covered it. Maybe a bit down there. But so if that's the case, whether it is a triple or it's just a double top or it's a head and shoulders, most of those things are kind of indicating actually we lose wherever this line is, whether you want it here at the spikes or down here, we lose that. It just feels better for a neckline, to be honest. And we could be seeing 460 again, just on the distance there, which kind of take us down to sort of where these are and sort of capturing where this bottom is. So definitely nothing out of the equation there. People talk about, I talk about DOT. I'm doing a video I mentioned last week about DOT 2.0, Polkadot 2.0. Some massive changes were announced back in June, which I think, fundamentally are going to help this leaps and bounds in the next bull run, but that ain't going to save it in the short term on where we currently are in the market. But it's been a minute. We're talking to get back into double figures, well over a year. And so, yeah, we've got a bit of, a bit of time on our hands before we can start thinking about where we're at in terms of a fib level. Move that down a bit. It's not really reached the 618. I was hoping that one was gonna hit the 618 quite nicely, but sadly it didn't. But that's what I'd do it to, lows to highs. But that's $5, $5 region. And, there's a psychological, with it being such a round number, there's also plenty of price action in and around there. What I would say is, if the market's going to turn south, I'm not ruling out a retest of sort of 430, 440, 420 back here. We've had two big interactions with that, both there and there. It's bounced strong on both occasions. Obviously, the first time it hit it bounced a hell of a lot stronger. This one's looking more like a dead cat bounce from it. But it did bounce there. So wherever that is, if it was to come down, I would want to see, well, that would be an area I'd certainly be looking, identifying to buy. And if it breaches that, then okay, I'd have to just accept where that goes. In terms of, let's put this on the weekly so we can see it a little bit better. I mean, I'll just get rid of all of this now. That kind of still makes sense for me anyway. It's the weekly, so I know I'm hitting wicks there, but that level there, that's kind of its bottom it had back in 2020 when it launched. Ignore this first candle that was launched, comes back down. At the hype of the launch, it kind of recovers, finds itself, a lot of weeks building some momentum there, and that's what it's been catching itself on. So that's what I'd be looking at if we're to lose it again. And as I say, going back onto the daily, it does feel a bit like a topping pattern there with these. That 580, I mean, even 560, you could call it with a candle closing, seems to be really struggling to get above that level. So, that's, I mean, it sounds obvious, but if it wants to impress anyone right now, it needs to close above 560. The other thing, as we talk about the 21 EMA, it's been above it the whole time, but we closed below it yesterday, and we're still below it now. So unfortunately, that might be just leading us to a bit more downward momentum on that. Okay. I'll go, because I know these are just mine, so I'll go to some of the ones that people have talked about first. So Link. Okay, so we had Link. Now, Link had an incredible move up a couple of days ago. And without getting into the fundamentals of things, Chainlink announced the CCIP, which is the cross-chain interoperability protocol. Not going to really necessarily go in with that, but it does open up the doors for interoperability, opens up the doors for dApps, to interact, across chains and everything else. So there's, I think people got very excited about that announcement. I can't remember who asked about it now. Rob, like I did, I sold right up here. I think it's about 26. I sold at 826, and I'm still waiting for level $7 to get back in. Sort of, explain why. So we're on the daily charts at the moment. I mean, we're not even have to use the market maker chart, but you can kind of see there's a W there. Rise 1, pull back. Rise 2, maybe pull back, and then we've got potentially a rise 3 question mark, or is it rise 1 pull back, rise 2 pull back? This is rise 3 and we're starting an M, and we'll go that way potentially. But in terms of what else we see, so it felt like this was positive news pumping up, but a good turnaround, and a steady decline of candles from that. In terms of why I chose that level, I mean, Simon showed on the trading pub when I mentioned it, but the fib levels, the 618 kind of targets where I was looking. There's plenty of previous action in around $7. Just get that up there, just draw this across. You can kind of see a lot of stuff there. Might have to throw it onto the weekly just so we can. Might look messy on the weekly, bloody hell. Go back to the daily, otherwise people are just thinking, I don't know what's going on. And so now the problem not the problem. The question I've got to ask myself though is it going to make it all the way down there on its own? We have lost the 786. I'm a big fan of the fib levels. 618 seems like a magnet to me. We've got this 21 EMA that's now climbing above that. Is that going to stop it? Now, it could still spike down, but actually the body close above it. And so whilst I don't have any orders placed at the moment, I might actually start having to think about how I'm going to stagger these orders in. So maybe starting at 710 and going through 7 to, I don't know, 690 or whatever, just try and give myself that balance all the way through. There's nothing to say that if it doesn't lose that, then, we've got 655 and 618, not the fib level, but the actual price level, of which it could potentially look to attack. But yeah, I was fairly happy. I only sold 50% of my link at this level, but that feels like that's the reason I've chosen $7 roughly to get back in at. It's pretty much, if we did this on here, get this onto the daily. That's a full recovery of this vector candle. So, which, you know, is not unheard of. Generally, vector candles do get recovered, but we normally look at the sort of the 50% line initially, but we've already lost that, which is making me think maybe there's an opportunity for it to come down there. Interesting. So this is the it's at 50. That's why. Yeah, it's not interesting at all. I was going to say that's way down there. That's the 50. Someone has asked for BNB. Now BNB, I think actually, I was quite surprised at this one, because if we just go to coin market cap, you got year to dates. Most tokens positive year to dates, but Binance stalled 2% down year to date. It's only monster movements on some of the other ones, and yet Binance, biggest centralized exchange, you know, the FUD is you know, we don't think it's really affecting it because the price is holding, but actually it's not doing anything. So it is, maybe this FUD is actually holding it back. We get in, I'm going to go on this chart. We get into where Binance is, and we had that strong move down. And all we've done at the moment is consolidate, you know, definitely some up and downs, whether or not we're in some form of, you know, channel, sort of moving this way. We're just testing the bottom of it. If this channel plays out, then any of you lot that have a Bybit account, you know, we've seen what happens when it hits this lower side at the moment. Maybe there is an upside to, you know, 270 or something like that. But it also kind of feels like maybe this is actually some sort of bear flag, and what we're actually going to get is a breakdown. Now, what worries me the most about this, and I will go on to the weekly, let's just get rid of these, is if we're to lose this 200 level, there is nothing, and nothing really to catch it until, and even this is a bit flimsy, $40. That's how strong the pump up was back in January or July or February 2021. You know, it went from $45 to $300 in the space of 3 weeks, which is great if you're holding it at the time. But if you've hodled now, you've got to be nervous. And what I will say is that we've been this low before, 200 to 220, and it's held. But if we do lose and close that level, I just don't see what's there to particularly hold it up from it, with all the FUD that's happening and everything else, and then the price goes, and is that then a snowball effect of what, you know, could necessarily, I'm not saying it's going to, you know, cause Binance to collapse, but certainly potentially the value of the token. Now, for me as an exchange token, I do feel that this token is overvalued anyway. It got to nearly $700 per token and the last bull run, which just seems crazy. And it's one of the reasons why I'm not bothering going in on BNB and this cycle. But I, you know, found a piece of shit. If this drops down to under $100, I am going to be buying some, because I do see it doing well in the next bull run, and I see then an actual opportunity for some decent amount of growth. But yeah, so that's where I am looking at the moment with that. Some of the other ones, I'll put Glimmer. Glimmer for me now, I love the project, okay? Big fan of it. I really like what it's going to do. Glimmer's getting to the point for me where it's actually starting to be probably my biggest gamble. You know, I'll admit I sort of bought in and around here, up to here, still buying. I didn't sell till it came back probably below $2. But I've been buying now from 40 cents down to 22. So, you know, kind of after its value and what I've been buying, we still got token unlocks for the next sort of 4 or 5 months. So I can still see in this price being suppressed, and the staking APY is dropping as well. So whilst I am still doing that passive income, it is definitely coming down. So it is kind of starting to become one of my biggest risks, but it's one of, you know, it's not a huge holding of mine, maybe maximum 5%. It's not even at 5% yet, but it will be by the time I get to it. And, you know, so I can live with that. If it does see the upside potential that I think it should, then I think great. But at the moment, I am, you know, pretty significantly red in this one. The fact that I am able still to have some money in reserves to be able to buy some at these levels is at least bringing down my average buy, and then the staking rewards on top of that is also helping. So yeah, I think we're probably around about 28 cents is my average at the moment. But, you know, who knows where this will go. Sub 20 cents, I think it's probably likely with the number of token unlocks we've got, and just, you know, where the market is at the moment. So yeah, definitely something to consider there. Matic, I think, you know, again, I started buying at $1 and I've been buying, I got down at 50 and, you know, I've been buying anywhere in between. So that one's kind of working. But if we just have a look at sort of where we're at, I mean, why do we take the fib? I'll probably take a fib from here. I'll zoom in. I'm just was zooming out to see where I can take a fib from. If that's the case, you know, I mean, these levels definitely, this one didn't quite get there, but it did get caught by the 21. That's the weekly. Let's go on to the daily. Might need to adjust this now. Sorry, everyone. Let's just start that again. I think these levels are right in terms of just how it's interacted on everything else and how we've interacted here, but we have lost this now. So are we going to be looking at a retest back down to 60 cents? I mean, there's nothing to suggest it's going to turn around here. We've lost the 21 EMA. We've lost the fib level. There's no price level really, except for this very recent stuff that happened in June. And actually, you know, that seems a logical place for me that it would go. Sorry, I zoomed the wrong way there. So again, you know, for Matic, maybe it is 60 cents. Is a target that we need to be looking at. And so if that's the case, then, you know, that's where we're looking. Let's have a look. What else we got? I don't think many people are holding some of these other ones near. Potentially, I mean, near's another. I mean, all the altcoins are the same. All the altcoins I've got, I believe personally, have got great fundamentals and they've got a good roadmap and they're still delivering in the bear market. But unfortunately, that's not helping me in the price right now. So I'm happy from a long-term point of view of where near is. And to be honest with you, if I'm buying any more of near, I will be exceeding what I originally wanted to buy from that. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't do it, but that just, you know, it's an extra risk parameter that I just need to work out if I'm happy with that. But again, you know, downtrend, yep, we kind of broke through, but is that some form of, on the daily, some form of double top kind of just playing out there? And we're back at the neckline now. And a loss of that, and I think we're testing 120 again, you know? That seems like the logical place. We've lost a 21 EMA. You know, there's plenty. We'll throw the fib on. Let me just zoom in so you can see that. We'll throw a fib on now as well, but I bet these will line up. So yes, we've lost, I mean, the 618 was yesterday. We lost the 5 today. It's not finished. We'll have to wait and see. 318 down there. Maybe it bounced at 130, but other than that, I do see 120 kind of being the level that we're going. Let's try and have a look back in its history, see if there's anything else to have a look at. We'll have to put on a weekly if we're going to go back far back. Sorry. And we lose 120, we're kind of back in price discovery. I mean, all we've got is how it, you know, is that pullback from it, you know, launched, dumped, came up, bounced back. We got like $1. That's kind of where we're at. So again, it's staked for me at the moment. So it is earning passive. It's only about 8% a year. I don't think it's that much. It's not a huge amount, but steady Eddie. And it's, yeah, it's working for you. Right, we'll leave that one where it is. One that I know a lot of you talk about, and I'll go back to these questions now. Oh, bollocks. No, I won't. 2 seconds. Closed it by mistake. Let's try that one again. So TL, who isn't watching live, but hi, wondering if you could touch on this in the Avenger calls. I'm quite late to CAS, but looking to get a significant portion of my pot in. I have 0 CAS right now, so do I. Originally, I was thinking since the mother market looks bearish, I should wait to get in a bit. But as Reese pointed out, the 12-hour chart on CAS has a huge low test. I'm not sure how to navigate this conflicting ideas. I'm wondering what your take is on this. Were you in my position? Well, I am in your position because I do want to get some CAS. You know, what if type approach from things. So, you know, I've got to see. We'll have a look on the CAS chart. Let's go back to the daily. Let's get this into a level that we can have a look at. And we go back to, you know, wherever I was looking before, swing high, swing low. You've all seen this. I was targeting 1 cent. I was stupid, I suppose. I should have bought between 1.3 cents and 1 cent, but that was where I had my orders set, and I didn't really take it. And, you know, we hit that, and then off to the races we went. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, we moved that along. I mean, you could... Okay, now I'm going to change that. Let's just... So, before we put a fib on, had that price action, we had we had this buying pressure back up, and it kind of got down to the 21 EMA on the daily, and it's been bought back up. Now I made a bit of a joke in the group about, is that just the buying pressure from everybody in the group buying it? The reality is I haven't had time to check what the liquidity is or the spread's like, but I know, you know, there are a lot of people that are interested in this, and I don't know how much everybody's buying, but if everyone's buying, you know, 4 or 5 figures worth each time, then, you know, that is going to drive up the demand. But the reality is that was more of a joke than anything else. And yes, there is a low test, and it's looking fairly decent at the moment. What I would say is, if you are trading on the daily or the 12-hour, wait till the candle closes. In fact, just use the candle before. But what have we actually seen? Go back to the weekly initially. Let's start from the top, because we've come back to the previous level, and we've actually, you know, it's only a couple of days into this week. It's plenty of time for it to turn around. Of course it is. But is there potentially that happening? Potentially. Last time we got to this level, it was sufficient enough for people to sell to take some profits. And you got to remember, this is mined, okay? There's no pre-sales. It's people mining this, whether they're doing it at home or whether they got whatever that mining rig is that Simon talks about. You know, they've got costs that they're going to pay, and, you know, are they happy to pay that? So is that potentially a double top? Now, if it is, that's where you're doing the neckline, and then you're looking at where you're going. That's quite a way to go. So I'm not necessarily suggesting at the moment, but just on the big picture, that could be it. Could be it. I don't want anyone thinking I'm bad-mouthing it. We go on to the daily, and again, you know, we did close above it, but we immediately lost it. We haven't cleared that area, and we certainly haven't made an all-time high at the moment. So we're starting to turn around. But again, the argument could be made that it's only natural, after having over a month of pretty much steady growth upwards, that we're going to have a pullback. And we've had a pullback here, caught our breath in and around the 21, and then we come back. So, you know, is it a case that we just, you know, we continue to go down, we consolidate in and around sort of 3 cents around where this 21 is, and then we just move on back upwards? Absolutely. I'm sorry that I'm kind of sitting on the fence with all kind of options here, TL, but, you know, this is what's going through my mind. And then we need to look at, well, how about from a fib level point of view? Well, again, I mean, immediately we can see from that fib level that wick bounced straight off it. I mean, perfectly off that level there. And this is a fairly decent, I think, you know, these levels seem to tie into where it moves. So maybe now, you know, if you don't believe it's a double top and you don't believe it's going to go all the way down, maybe this is kind of where you can start to be having a look at some areas. Yeah, somewhere around there. So anywhere from just over 2 cents to just under 3 cents is an opportunity. Now, there's not much price history for you to have a look at previous price action, but we have seen, you know, these levels pan out to the left as well. It's difficult to buy in. Well, no, it's not. It's easy to buy in on green candles, but more often than not, there will in the future become a better buying opportunities, because, you know, typically when it's green, it's just FOMO's getting in and people are just waiting to start selling that. So it's all about just patience and mindset here. But if you're like Sam and you think this is going to go to 50 cents, what does it matter if it's 3 cents or 2 cents? You know, there may be a 25x in it, or there may be a 17x in it. You know, it's not too much difference there. So don't let that put you off. starting to get a position. If this is a medium-term hold for you that you're going to see out till 2026, think about starting to get into a position there. Factors that you do need to put in is we should have a look at the liquidity. We should actually see, Simon's already mentioned himself, if he sells everything at once, he gets slipped massively. So what is the open market liquidity on MEXC and on KuCoin? Because if suddenly everyone in RT that's got some wants to sell, that could slip very quickly, very fast. And it does remind me of the time back memo days. So potentially there, we've got the miners as well that may, yep, they'll be bringing stuff to the market, but they also want to then sell it. So again, when does that really come online, and how quickly are they going to be looking to try and recover any costs? You know, it doesn't mean because day one everybody's got it, it's going to start selling, but you know, some people may just sell every 24 hours. So you know, there's factors there. Then you know, we've got the fact that we're on the Bitcoin clock. We've got a way to go. And I saw that Reese, sorry, I'm not sure if you're on the call now, Reese. I think I saw you on earlier. You mentioned about, and Simon mentioned that Bitcoin and Kaz are doing their own things now. And you know, but I question whether or not Bitcoin and Kaz are doing their own thing. And let me just show you what I mean. Is this the best? Nope, not that one. Choose this one. Let me get a different Bitcoin chart. This is the BLX, by the way. So the BLX only prints a chart every day. So there isn't a candle for today, if you're wondering why it's not there. But it's a really good one because, sorry, just to go back. It goes back to the beginning. Okay? So if you ever want to do some long-term analysis, it goes all the way back to 2010. I think it's the chart that goes back the furthest. Anyway, let's put that to one side. So if I just overlay these two charts, let's put it on the weekly. I think this will probably work on the weekly. Let's get it to a decent kind of, well, now let's throw in Kaz on a new price scale. Let's close that. Let's zoom in now so that everyone can see what I'm wanting to talk about. And actually, look, I mean, I can only go back to last year because that's when the Kaz chart, but we've got a climb out of the new year, a spike up, pull back down, Bitcoin's coming back down, Kaz has come back down, another climb back up, Bitcoin started to turn, and so is Kaz. So I don't think they are doing their own things. As a matter of fact, I think they're following each other perfectly. They're just lagging, like crypto, like altcoins do. So don't get fooled by the narrative that this thing's running away from Bitcoin, because it isn't yet. Okay, it may well, absolutely, but it isn't yet. And all you have to do is overlay the chart. Have a fiddle with the scales yourself, but it doesn't necessarily matter. Even if I do that down, you can still see that where it was flat here and then we had the rise up. Well, that's happened there. And it's exactly what's going to happen. So I'm not so sure that it has moved away yet. And for me, that just means that it gives me confidence that I will get an opportunity to buy back in. So going back to the Kaz chart, and going back to the daily, and I'm still, I mean, now I still in the back of my mind, you know, wonder whether or not we'll see 1 cent. I think what's going to have to take there is going to have to be some narrative behind it, whether that be a Binance listing, as Simon talks about, which typically does lead to some sort of dump, if that ties in with some miners wanting to take some profits, and potentially we've got that opportunity there. And I wonder if it starts to move, whether or not it's going to move down quite quickly, just because other people will be like, well, I need to bag profits. I've been holding this for a while. I want to at least take something and reinvest. But, you know, that 2 cents line, I don't think is, for me, is anything, you know, that I wouldn't be too worried in maybe starting to build a position from, you know, back down to 382, 2 cents, whether I get a 2 cents or it's, you know, 1 and a bit cents or 16, 1.6 cents. I can see myself building a position down here. Whether or not we get all the way down to 1 cent, I honestly don't know. But at the moment, after such a positive uptick, I'm just going to wait. And I'm in a fortunate position where I'm only going to put 2% in anyway. So if I miss it and it never gets back down there, then hey, good luck to the rest of you guys. I'll go and find something else. I'll still have to talk about it, but yeah, I'm feeling comfortable with that way. So that's where I see Kaz. Enough said on that one. The other one to talk about, unless anyone's got anything in the chat, is we'll have a look at total 3. Now, total 3 is interesting for those of you who aren't aware. That is a total market cap for everything in the crypto space, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. Everything else, stablecoins and all other altcoins. Currently sitting just under $350 billion. Now, the overall total market cap is 1.1 trillion. So we know that between Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're effectively holding $700 billion worth of the market cap. Now, sorry, Bijan, to mention it, but you and I, we've talked about this on a call before. I know you're thinking it's looking fairly bearish at the moment, and I can see certainly where you're seeing this. I'm on the weekly chart at the moment, but I'm not necessarily bearish. I'm not bullish either. I think we're in a bit of a no man's land. And again, you know, if I just draw on why, remember we're talking about the health of the altcoin market here. We have tested this level here before, and it does feel like this was a fairly decent double bottom. Now, whether or not this has been rejected here and we're coming back down, only time will tell. We've got a few weeks, or if not months, to find that out. But I'm going to get bearish if we break this level. So if we break 300 billion, then yeah, we're in trouble with altcoins, and that's going to hurt me particularly. But otherwise, you know, we're just as close to 400 billion, where I'd be, you know, pretty excited that we're breaking out of this level. And so we're kind of sat in that middle ground right now. And we are seeing, sorry to jump around, Bitcoin dominance, it hit 52, and it's, you know, it's coming back down. Now, some people say, well, it's only made a 2%, 3% drop, but you know what? It's still a 2% drop from where it is. And you know, there's still potential for it to come back down. I think for those of you that really want to see a high Bitcoin dominance, I think it would be healthy for it to get back down to 48.5 and retest these levels here. But going back to total 3, you know, if Bitcoin dominance goes back up to 52, we're likely going to see this come back down. If it continues to fall to 48.5, then maybe we're going to slightly see this sort of coming back up. So that's the reason why I showed you that chart there. But they're the levels that I'm kind of interested at. Now, this is a big fib to draw because we're going from market top to market bottom. That's the bottom. So, you know, before, I suppose you could say, before we get to the 400, we've got the 386. Now, that's it. I'm not even really looking at 618 at the moment, because to get to 618 and, you know, just under 500 billion, we've had a significant sentiment shift in the market. So, you know, we've got to get through a lot of stuff there. If we do break that, and if we do break 400, we start to close above it, obviously that's what I'm going to be targeting. But right now, all my eyes are on whether or not we hold 300, and then whether or not we can break 400. So I'm kind of sat in the middle ground, I'll be honest. Right, anything else worth chatting about? I don't think so. I'll just tackle this last question. Find the Google sheet. Close it again. Here we go. So Mo and A Savvy wanted me to talk about sort of planning. What this came about. Let me find on Discord how this came about. What was it under? Here we go. I think A Savvy was having a chat with Bijan just about pot allocation, how he should split it up, and, you know, how new he was to the market. And as the conversation sort of went on, I started talking about, you know, Bijan mentioned in the course talking about how to take profits, you know, having an idea, because it's all well and good buying stuff, but you holding profits on paper doesn't mean anything. And so I mentioned about, you know, coming up with a plan. Now, you go back to sort of February, March time, I did a video or Avengers call on my strategy for how I was going to manage through that. But Mo asked me if I could just roughly go over everything again. And I'll keep it relatively short because, you know, I'm conscious that we're already 1 hour and 40 minutes in. You know, for me, yes, I've started to move into the market, and yes, I've started to position myself. I've done that for a couple of reasons. One, this would be like my third bull cycle now. 2019, someone will say I got in early again, but I was in for the halvening and just after, and I got to see some significant growth from that, and that benefited. But I didn't fully stick to my profit taking strategy because I timed when I should have taken my major profits right towards the end of the market, the tops. At the time, DOT was my biggest bag. I sold that in November 21. Perfect time to sell. $52 or whatever it was. But then I moved. I got into the hype of rebasing DAOs, and I moved into that. I thought the bull market was going to continue, and I didn't bank as much profit as I did. I did take some, which is great, and I always think at least I learned something there. But I didn't listen to my plan because I got swept away with it. So this time I've really been working on making sure that I do stick to the plan. And the plan is simple. You're not going to know when the market top is, just like we didn't know if November, December 2022 was the market bottom. So you need to understand levels or value in which you are going to start to take profit on the way up. Now, that could be different for each token, or you can do it from a holistic point of view of where the market value is. However it is that you want to do it, you need to formulate that plan. Now, I am going to use fib levels on the weekly chart to try and identify some. I'll give you an example with Polkadot. I'm going to run a fib from market top down to current market bottom, and we can kind of see $20 and $30. For me, I'd be foolish not to take some profit in and around these areas. Whether or not I take it all the way back into cash or I just leave it in stable coins for maybe a pullback and buy back in, we don't know. But just as a very simple example, they're levels, big levels that I'm going to be looking to try and take some profit on. Now, that's all based on the fact that we're using $4.40 as the bottom. If that changes, then it's all my fib levels. Lost my train of thought there. But there are also other ones in which I want to turn my altcoins into Bitcoin or Ethereum. And again, that's then using the dominance charts and trying to understand where the better value is. Now, we've gone through dominance before. I've added a few here now, but we use DOT again as an example. This is DOT's dominance in overall market cap, so it's less than 0.5%. But again, if it gets up to 1.5, that's an ideal time to start taking some profit. But if I want to have a look at it and turn it into Bitcoin, and have a look at it versus the Bitcoin pairs, find DOT, then again, at the moment, my DOT doesn't get me much Bitcoin, but as DOT's dominance increases in market cap, it's going to be eating into not just other altcoins, but Bitcoins. So its value against Bitcoin is going to increase. And that means that I can then have a look at converting it into Bitcoin, and I'd ultimately get more Bitcoin than I would have done had I bought it at the time in which I got into DOT. And maybe these fib levels might play out. And if they do, then yeah, we can have a look at some of these. And when we're down at, what's that, 1,700 Satoshis at the moment, it gets up to 4,500 Satoshis, then yeah, there's obviously an ideal opportunity to convert some of that within there. But the key for me is just taking profit on the way up. So at key levels of resistance, taking profit, whether they be fib levels, whether they be pre-price action. May not take it all the way back into cash. It may just be sat in stable coins. But obviously I'm not going to immediately start looking to do that now. Take significant parts of my portfolio because I'm still in the building point of view. But once we get past 130 on the Bitcoin spiral clock, and we're into that run into the Bitcoin all-time high for this halving or for next halving, then yeah, I'm gonna start to look to do that, and then just buy back in. I'm gonna try and keep the tokens that I'm doing down to a minimum. Last time I had over 90 tokens, which was very difficult to manage and really understand where I was going with that. But I'm gonna leave myself some wiggle room. So at the moment, it's just long-term holds and medium-term holds are the only ones that I've got. These are ones that I'm looking at or I've had in the past, and then these are just ones that I use for TA. So I'm probably talking, around about 10 tokens at the moment, maybe 11. Might push that to 15 with some other ones that I like, get back into AI and stuff like that. But yeah, so go back to the video in February, March, to go into a lot more detail on it, but that's what I'm going to be doing. That's how I'm going to go and have a look at it. And I hope that helps. I don't know if anyone's got any other questions or anything else that they want to talk about, but I'm kind of excited that we might have finished a little bit earlier than I normally do. For those that were waiting for Immutable X as a research token, it's done. It's kind of in the bag. I will refine it over the next week. We'll just do it next week. And then a couple of weeks after that, I've got some pre-recorded videos. I've got the review, the 6 months review, and then I've got the Polkadot one. And you know, the Polkadot one I've really enjoyed doing, or starting to pull together. I've started to actually film some of it, and I kind of know what I'm talking about within that, because there's some incredible changes. It's gone in massively different direction, and it's not because it's a failing of Polkadot 1.0. Actually, they just achieved everything that they thought they were set up to do in 1.0, and there are some things that they definitely recognize that they could do better, and they're going to address those, and I think that's only a good thing. So I'm going to do a video on that as well, basically doing those because I'm going to go away for a couple of weeks in August, but just try and keep some content out for whilst I'm not around. Does anyone have any other questions or anything else they want to add? If not, we will call it a night. Here, Canspert here, misspelled that. It's the Spiral, What Bitcoin Did channel. I'll check that out. Thanks for that. I'll definitely check that out. Okay, looks like we're probably got to where we got to. Either that or for some reason my chat stopped working. I just want to say thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in. I realised I probably didn't go into as low time frames as I wanted to on some of the prices there, but to be honest with you, because I'm not doing Bybit trades, I'm not looking like that, and nothing's really happened. That level hasn't really broken for BTC yet. So, you know, once it does, I'll be happy to do that. But we've got Thursday, we've got the trading pub, go into a lot more detail about some of the price stuff there and where that's going. There is the cuddle on the 12th of August. So if you haven't already, please book onto that. I'm not going, I'm in Portugal. I promise you I'll be at the one in November. So 2 in a row I've missed now. But I do hope you have a good time at that one. And all else I've got to say is just thanks a lot, guys. Have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of it. And I will speak to you all soon. Cheers now.